This is Dan Bongino, and he is Trump's appointed FBI Deputy Director. But who is he exactly? And how exactly was he able to be picked for one of the highest positions in the FBI?
President Trump has named a former Secret Service agent and conservative podcaster as the new Deputy Director of the FBI. Dan Bongino will serve as the FBI's second in command to the agency's director, Kash Patel.
Dan's story is one marked by public service, controversy, and a steady evolution from law enforcement into the realm of political commentary and media. His trajectory from a young man, inspired to serve his community, to a well-known conservative voice on television, radio, and social media, illustrates both the challenges and opportunities that come with a life dedicated to public engagement. Dan was born and raised in a working-class family where values such as hard work, discipline, and civic responsibility were deeply ingrained. Dan learned early on the value of integrity and commitment. His early years were shaped by his exposure to the realities of urban life, where encounters with crime and social challenges were common. These early experiences not only instilled in him a desire to protect and serve, but also laid the groundwork for his later decision to enter law enforcement. Throughout his youth, Dan was an avid reader of current events and political happenings, cultivating an interest in the broader national discourse. This passion for understanding societal structures and the mechanisms of government would eventually influence his later work as a political commentator. However, it was his call to serve and protect his community that would initially drive him into a career of law enforcement. Dan's professional career started on the front lines of public safety. He started as a police officer, working within a system that demanded both courage and resilience. After his time on the police force, Dan sought to expand his understanding and capacity to protect the American citizens. By this point, he joined the United States Secret Service. This career move was significant. The Secret Service is not only known for its role in protecting the nation's leaders, but also for its rigorous standards and intense training.
The Secret Service has a zero-fail mission. That is now your responsibility. That is now the weight on your shoulders. Now you have to earn it every single day.
His work within the Secret Service required a level of precision and discretion, as well as the ability to respond quickly and effectively to potential threats. This period in his career was pivotal in shaping his views on national security and the importance of a very strong law enforcement apparatus.
If you grabbed me as a former Secret Service guy and said, "Hey, Dan, can you go do a Homeland Security investigation on this?" No, that's not what I learned. We are training Secret Service agents to do protection so we don't have to use other entities that don't do protection.
It also provided him with firsthand experience in understanding how governmental institutions operate at the highest levels. After leaving active duty in the Secret Service, Dan began to channel his experience in the political arena. He decided to leverage his background to influence public policy and political debate. Dan ran for political office as a candidate with a clear message of law and order.
I'm Dan Bongino, candidate for Congress.
He campaigned on issues such as national security, government accountability, and the preservation of traditional American values. Although his bids for a political office were not ultimately successful, they served to raise his public profile and allowed him to communicate directly with a growing base of supporters. Even in the face of electoral setbacks, Dan's political involvement didn't wane. Instead, his ascent into politics helped him to forge connections with like-minded conservatives and policymakers, therefore establishing him as a notable figure within politics.
Everybody goes crazy. Does Donald Trump mean it? I don't know.
Later on, Dan's transition from public servant to a media personality was driven by a desire to influence the national conversation on politics and public policy. As traditional media began to embrace other viewpoints, Dan found a receptive audience amongst conservative listeners and viewers. His background in law enforcement lent him an air of credibility, particularly amongst those who value a strong national defense and robust law enforcement policies. Launching his career as a political commentator, Dan quickly became known for his direct and unyielding critique of liberal policies and what he often described as bureaucratic establishment. He has frequently appeared on cable news programs where he shares his opinion on issues ranging from immigration, national security, free speech, and the role of government in everyday life. His discussions are often drawn on personal experiences from his time in law enforcement, which he uses to illustrate real-world consequences of policy decisions. This blend of personal experience and political ideology has made him a favorite amongst many viewers who are eager for an insider's perspective on the workings of government and law enforcement. With the rise in digital media, Dan embraced new platforms to reach an even wider audience. His work expanded beyond television and radio to include books, podcasts, and a significant significant online presence. In his writings, he has tackled a wide range of topics, from critiques of what he sees as government corruption to detailed analysis of national security policies. Perhaps one of the most influential aspects of Dan's career has been his work in the podcasting arena, The Dan Bongino Show. The Dan Bongino Show has grown into a nationally recognized program where he discusses current events, interviews guests from various sectors of politics, and provides his unique take on controversial issues. The podcast format allows him to explore complex issues in depth, offering listeners insights that go beyond service-level commentary typical of short news segments. This direct engagement has helped him build a loyal following and has positioned him as a key figure in the online conservative community. Dan argues that a secure nation not only requires strong leadership, but also a population that is informed, engaged, and unafraid to hold the government accountable. Whether he's discussing issues related to immigration, national security, or the integrity of democratic institutions, Dan's arguments are delivered with a sense of urgency and conviction. His advocacy for transparency in government and his emphasis on traditional values resonates with those who feel alienated by what they see as the elitism of modern political establishments. Like many figures in the public media landscape, Dan's career has not been without controversy. His outspoken style and willingness to engage in continuous debates have sometimes led to heated exchanges with political opponents and even former allies. These controversies, however, has done little to diminish his popularity amongst his core supporters. Over the years, he has helped to shape the narrative around issues of national security, government accountability, and the role of law enforcement in modern society. His background as a public servant leads him to an authenticity that resonates with audiences looking for perspectives grounded in personal experiences rather than theoretical posturing.
This is a man who loves his country and who has honorably served our country in ways that many people have not.
In this new media environment, his forthright commentary and willingness to challenge established narratives have allowed him to maintain a prominent position on the conservative stage. Dan's public statements and writings have, at times, influenced political debate at the national level. Lawmakers and policymakers have taken note of the issues that he raises, and his commentary is often cited by those seeking to justify tougher stances on crime and security. As Dan continues to evolve as a media personality, his influence has extended across multiple platforms, and his work has sparked both admiration and controversy in equal measure.
I think it's quite despicable to see many networks in this room who have had chyrons on their television screens labeling Mr. Bongino as a far-right podcaster. He is not. He is a former law enforcement agent. He is a former Secret Service agent who put his life on the line to protect this country.
For those who have followed his career over the years, his journey is an insight into a broader cultural shift in American political life. Looking ahead, the future of Dan appears poised for future growth as debates over national security, immigration, and governmental oversight continue to dominate the national conversation. His voice is likely to remain influential. The ongoing evolution of digital media means that his platform will continue to expand, reaching new audiences and further solidifying his position as a key figure in American conservatism. It's safe to say that Dan's future is looking brighter and brighter. So bright, in fact, he is now going to become the Deputy Director of the FBI.
President Trump announced that former Fox News personality Dan Bongino will be second in command to lead the FBI.
That's right. This Secret Service veteran and successful podcaster is willing to set everything aside to once again serve and protect the American people. This couldn't have been an easy decision, but Dan clearly has chosen the path, and we wish him all the best. And here's to working towards a safer and more prosperous America. Do you want to keep up with news and current events? Then don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel.